hours' time, if there is another tsunami which occurs in 4 hours' time, all along, including Orissa, everywhere along peninsular India, we will be affected by another tsunami. Are we ready? That's the message I want to leave behind. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The rail road had been washed off, and I have personally experienced wind speeds of 180 kilometers per hour sitting in the train on a bridge, not able to go forwards or backwards. So I know what exactly it is. The reason why I wanted to talk about the tsunami of 2004 and have titled it as Memories Recalled and Lessons Learned, it's because tsunami is not something that you talk about now, because it occurred 20 odd years ago and nobody really knows about it. And quite often we have relegated it to history. Even we heard speakers about ISRO and the speakers ahead. Nobody really talks about tsunami anymore because we are more interested in the earthquakes and all other things which happen regularly. But what we need to remember is quite often what we think is what it is not really so. Because quite often the entire image that we have is something different when you turn by 180 degrees. And you realize that when you look at it from the perspective of a person who's been involved on site, the experiences that we have encountered is something which gives you a totally different perspective. So I'm going to talk to you about, not much about the theory part of it. I'm going to actually flip through a photo album which will show you pictures of what exactly happened on December 26, 2004. The tsunami, as you might know, the word tsunami is actually a Japanese word. Tsu means actually a harbor, and nami means a wave. So, time immemorial, people in Japan, because the tectonic plates comes through that and tsunamis occur there very often, have observed a phenomenon by which huge waves used to affect their harbors. So that's how the term came in, and it was relegated to textbooks of emergency medicine, because one of the subspecialties we study in emergency medicine is called disaster medicine. And in disaster medicine we learn about tsunamis. But it was only in 2004 that I could personally see and encounter what exactly the tsunami was all about. There was an earthquake which occurred under the ocean, a Richter scale of 9.3, and 9.3 is unrecorded in history. That's about the maximum which has ever occurred, and this occurred underwater, and that resulted in a massive tidal wave which was about 7 meters tall. And if you look at a picture, this is how you will see it. What exactly happens was when there is a displacement which occurs here between two plates which occurred actually. There's a Burma plate and an Indo-Australian plate. These two tectonic plates can undergo many kinds of movements. One is side to side, it can also go up and down. So there was a vertical displacement because of which there was a huge big wave of water column which started, and as it comes towards the shore, because this becomes shallow, the waves become larger. So when you look at an artist's description, this is how an artist's description is of a tsunami. Massive, massive. But probably it wasn't this big, but this is a more realistic picture. This is from Sri Lanka, taken by a photographer, and that was the last thing he ever did. Because after that, he was washed away and only his camera was found. And thank God for those days we had films. So therefore, unlike an electronic camera, unlike a digital image, the film could be processed and they could see this picture. So this is a very valuable picture which gives us an idea as to what exactly happened. So as I said, God has blessed me with the opportunity to being on site, to looking at various, and Velangani, that is where we were working. If you look at it, this is the map. CMC Vallor is situated here. This actually takes about 8 hours normally, but we took 14 hours because the roads had been washed away and it was very, very bad. And during that time, firstly we formed a primary team. Yes, I look quite different those days, but this was a long time ago. This was the primary team. We did not take any of the women with us because we were not sure as to what the situation was. But subsequently we knew that we were able to take on women volunteers also with us. So together we went there. We started off, and as the day began to break, somehow it was not very good. It was very gloomy, very dull, and so was our mood because we did not know what we were going for. And this you see is the picture when we reached the collectorate. This is actually the collectorate office, and you don't know whether you can see the time. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:41 to be precise. And these are all the victims who were being housed in the collectorate. And as the dawn was beginning to break, we could see large groups of people. And as we heard Dr. Nanda speak, these are all volunteers from all the local villages. And when we stopped and asked, why are you heading towards the disaster area? They said, we are going there to help. That, ladies and gentlemen, is something that we as Indians have to be very proud of. Yes, in the US, it was a disaster. People were stealing, people were not helping, people were looting everything that they could. Nobody was helping anybody. But we in India have demonstrated time and again that the community is the one which reaches out and helps all our people. And as we were going, we could see the rice fields and dead bodies. These are not supposed to be here. This is on the other side of the villages where there's a cremation ground, far away from the shoreline. And boats were found everywhere where they should not be. And it is surprising that the buildings that we saw, large parts of the building were missing. They were not just collapsed. Large parts of the brick walls were missing. And instead there was debris from other places which are actually occupying, and the wall debris, pieces of the wall were found far away where there were no houses. So you can imagine the power of the water which had lifted cement blocks and taken it far away. Mango orchards, which are supposed to be clean. This area produces large amount of mangoes for that part of Tamil Nadu, and there was debris littered everywhere. When we entered the village, it was unbelievable. And we could see that the fire service people, whom actually has not been mentioned, they were the people who were involved in the SNR, the search and rescue team. They were the ones who were carrying out the operations along with the public. The main thing was, when the tsunami hit at 4 minutes past 9 o'clock, the church service had been over. One group had moved from inside the church towards, you see the wall which is here? You can see the wall. Beyond this is the beach. So the general tradition is people come to church, attend the mass, then they go out through the gate and onto the beach. And the next service begins. So when the tsunami struck, all those who were on the beach were completely taken away. And all those who were inside just miraculously escaped. Debris, as I said, with all the debris had come. And it was this debris which was actually made up of few of these animals which survived were wandering aimlessly because all the landmarks which they knew of their house where they are supposed to be had gone away. So they were wandering around aimlessly without knowing where to go. And we heard how we have inappropriate facilities being dumped on us. I just put up one. These were tents which were put up. Not one person occupied, neither human nor animal, because these plastic tents become very hot during the daytime. So nobody wants to stay in them. And there were huge mountains of clothes which are being dumped through helicopters. And children were using them as jumping points. So they would pile these clothes near the trees and they would climb up the tree and jump from the tree. Clothes were useless. They were dumping sausages. Fishermen don't eat sausages. They eat only fish. They were useless. Only the dogs were eating. So it is very important that when we help them appropriately and not otherwise. Quite often gets submerged because the mother is carrying, mother is washed away. The child remains there, and child had to be assessed for immersion injuries and also other injuries because of impact. So my doctors and my nurses and everybody, these are my nurses, they were looking after the elderly, also people like, for example, this man had developed cellulitis of his leg because he was a diabetic. Children, what was amazing is not one child even whimpered when we were treating them. Diseases including malaria and filaria and dengue, So you can see one of the people spraying the medication. This is one of my drivers. He was one of the ambulance drivers, and he is actually teaching all the local people about dengue. There was no big, there was no small. We were all the same. I think it's more than 2.5 lakhs. So we are not talking about thousands. We are talking about lakhs and lakhs, making this one of the most deadliest disasters that has ever been recorded in history. There was an unprecedented, massive global response which came from all over the world. And that was something really nice to see. And as I mentioned earlier, I saw the community rise to the occasion.